I remember doing time in the county, and I remember, you know what I'm saying, always wanting to be around the older guys. You know what I'm saying? What they call like the OGs, the old schools, the old heads, the pops. You know, because they were a lot more calm. I was just 17 years old. I turned 18 uh, when I had first got caught up. So I was really a child, man. You know, in a grown man's arena. And there were these books that was floating around, The Art of Seduction, The Art of War, 48 Laws of Power, you know, just to name a few. But Behold a Pale Horse um, stood out to me a lot. And this was a book by William Cooper, a book written by William Cooper. I'm not going to go into his background and his history and his credentials. That you can find out for yourself. But I will say he was a guy that, was given certain naval clearances and saw certain things and did a lot of research and studying. And this is even before the internet age, if you will. So I remember back in the day, YouTube was YouTube, but YouTube wasn't YouTube. If you know what I mean. Um, and getting lost, going down that rabbit hole of quote unquote conspiracies. Um, it started out like occultism in hip hop, and you see the little one eye symbols and the hand gestures and the horns and the black and white checkerboards, Freemasonry and things of that nature. And at that time, you think to yourself like, "Oh man, this is deep," right? Looking back at it, we wasn't even really scratching the surface concerning that stuff. That stuff was all minute. That wing of the Illuminati, if you will, the Rosicrucians, or which is all essentially the same thing, skull and bones. It all roots from these societies that sprung up, after the Lord, and really rooted into, undoing what He did. When you're dealing with the Knights Templar, the Skull and Bones, the Freemasons, um, all these secret organizations, which ultimately led to the things like the Council of Foreign Relations, and so forth. I'm not going to run down the whole gambit. They all stem from Satanism. Um, the Jesuit orders, the Papsies, that all the root of that is Satan's infiltration within the church, and this is the first century church. And Paul made mention of this too. He made mention of Satan trying to enter into the church to try to steer it in a way that was contrary um, to the scriptures, understanding that men had the zeal of God, but just Satan transforming his ways. Not necessarily trying to get you to break the law, but trying to play the game and getting you not to believe. You fast forward to today, 2025, and you know, as I stumbled across the camps, a lot of what was said in this book, and I remember as a child reading it as a kid, and I'm like, man, this is true. This guy's coming. He's backing up what he's seeing with hardcore facts, evidence, government documents. Area. He's talking about Area 51 and what takes place here, and he's explaining some technologies that have been released on the Earth, and the idea is there's no way some of these things could take place without or some sort of a divine intervention, if you will. Um, the lining up of the pyramids, Vios technology, certain weapons being given to the Nazis on ballistic missiles, and um, one thing that you immediately realize and you understand is that in all cultures, regardless of you jumping in the time machine and going back to whatever time, all speak about somebody, something, some entity coming from somewhere else, and you know having dealings with human beings, right? Um, Samarita, whether it be Egyptians, hieroglyphs, Stone Age, you know, Nazis, whatever you want to talk about. There's this idea of these beings, spaceships, people, and some would even call them aliens. Aliens, but some would even call them angels or fallen angels or angels on the right hand side, right? Um, that's depicted on how you look at them. So when I got this information, the camps kind of erased all this from my brain because I said to myself, obviously, it's not that I said to myself, it's that hey, wait a minute, these aren't Martians, these are aliens. I'm sorry, these aren't Martians, these aren't aliens, these are angels, these are chariots, these are maneuvered, by spiritual beings. And in my mind, it all made sense to me, you know. And what they did was kind of they eliminated the left hand part of this. So in other words, all angels are right-handed angels. I just seen a lesson that this guy did, and yeah, it's evident that they don't believe in angels on the left-hand side, or fallen angels, if you will, right? Which this is that's not the Bible teaches fallen angels. That's not biblically sound, right? Um, so you can't deny the fact that there are fallen angels in the scriptures. You could argue that you don't agree with what the scriptures say, you don't believe that is that, but the fact that there are mentioned fallen angels in the scriptures numerous times, um, you can't argue with that, right? So I wanna go into this kind of a long introduction there, but it is necessary, to the listener to understand not just where I'm coming from, where I've been, and the journey that took me and led me to this point. Um, there are things on this earth that has to be explained, right? It has to be explained, right? So without no further ado, what I want to do is I'm gonna see how I want to do this. Let's let's get into this first, right? I want to get into this first, and then I'll go back. So here's the gist of it, and then I'll go back, and we'll go into the certain books, and we'll go into the scriptures, um, and we'll lead it back to here. We'll bring it back full circle.
Eisenhower knew that he had to wrestle and beat the alien problem. He knew that he could not do it by revealing the secret to the Congress. Early in 1953, the new president turned to his friend and fellow member of the Council on Foreign Relations, Nelson Rockefeller. Eisenhower and Rockefeller began planning the secret structure of alien task supervision, which was to become a reality within 1 year. The idea for MJ-12 was thus born. It was Nelson's uncle, Winthrop Aldrich, who had been crucial in convincing Eisenhower to run for president. The whole Rockefeller family, and with them, the Rockefeller empire, had solidly backed Ike. Eisenhower belonged heart and soul to the Council on Foreign Relations and the Rockefeller family. Asking Rockefeller for help with the alien problem, was to be the biggest mistake Eisenhower ever made for the future of the United States and maybe for humanity. Within 1 week of Eisenhower's election, he had appointed Nelson Rockefeller chairman of a Presidential Advisory Committee on Government Organization. Rockefeller was responsible for planning the reorganization of the government, something he had dreamed of for many years. New Deal programs went into one single cabinet position called the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. When the Congress approved the new cabinet position in April 1953, Nelson was named to the post of Undersecretary to Ovida Culp Hobby. In 1953, astronomers discovered large objects in space which were tracked moving toward the Earth. It was first believed that they were asteroids. Later evidence proved that the objects could only be spaceships. Project Sigma intercepted alien radio communications. When the objects reached the Earth, they took up a very high geosynchronous orbit around the equator. There were several huge ships, and their actual intent was unknown. Project Sigma and a new project, Plato, through radio communications using the computer binary language, were able to arrange a landing that resulted in face-to-face contact with alien beings from another planet. This landing took place in the desert. The movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind is a fictionalized version of the actual events. Project Plato was tasked with establishing diplomatic relations with this race of space aliens. A hostage was left with us as a pledge that they would return and formalize a treaty. In the meantime, a race of humanoid aliens landed at Homestead Air Force Base in Florida and successfully communicated with the United States government. This group warned us against the race orbiting the equator and offered to help us with our spiritual development. They demanded that we dismantle and destroy our nuclear weapons as the major condition. They refused to exchange technology, citing that we were spiritually unable to handle the technology we already possessed. These overtures were rejected on the grounds that it would be foolish to disarm in the face of such an uncertain future. There was no track record to read from. It may have been an unfortunate decision. A third landing at Muroc, now Edwards Air Force Base, took place in 1954. The base was closed for 3 days, and no one was allowed to enter or leave during that time.
So he said in one landing, it was told to them to get rid of your thermonuclear missiles. This is very keen here, right? Whoever these beings were, that were not from, this place, told them, I'll repeat that again, to get rid of your nuclear weapons, and you're not spiritually ready to possess such weapons, right?
The historical event had been planned in advance. Details of a treaty had been agreed upon. Eisenhower arranged to be in Palm Springs on vacation. On the appointed day, the president was spirited to the base. The excuse was given to the press that he was visiting a dentist. Witnesses to the event have stated that 3 UFOs flew over the base and then landed. Anti-aircraft batteries were undergoing live fire training, and the startled personnel actually fired at the crafts as they passed overhead. Luckily, the shells missed, and no one was injured. President Eisenhower met with the aliens on February the 20th, 1954, and a formal treaty between the alien nation and the United States of America was signed. We then received our first alien ambassador from outer space. He was the hostage that had been left at the first landing in the desert. His name and title was His Omnipotent Highness Krill. In the American tradition of disdain for royal titles, he was secretly called Original Hostage Krill. Shortly after this meeting, President Eisenhower suffered a heart attack. 4 others present at the meeting were Franklin Allen of the Hearst newspapers, Edwin Norse of Brookings Institute, Gerald Light of Metaphysical Research fame, and Catholic Bishop McIntyre of Los Angeles. Their reaction was judged as the microcosm of what the public reaction might be. Based upon this reaction, it was decided that the public could not be told. Later studies confirmed the decision as sound. An emotionally revealing letter written by Gerald Light spells it out in chilling detail. It reads, "My dear friend, I have just returned from Enoch. The report is true, devastatingly true. I made the journey in company with Franklin Allen of the Hearst Papers and Edwin Norse of Brookings Institute, who was Truman's erstwhile financial advisor, and Bishop McIntyre of Los Angeles. Keep these names confidential for the present, please. When we were allowed to enter the restricted section, after about 6 hours in which we were checked out on every possible item, event, incident, and aspect of our personal and public lives, I had the distinct feeling that the world had come to an end with fantastic realism. For I have never seen so many human beings in a state of complete collapse and confusion as they realized that their own world had indeed ended with such finality as to beggar description. The reality of other plane aeroforms is now and forever removed from the realms of speculation and made a rather painful part of the consciousness of every responsible scientific and political group. During my 2 days' visit, I saw 5 separate and distinct types of aircraft being studied and handled by our Air Force officials, with the assistance and permission of the Etherians. I have no words to express my reaction. It has finally happened. It is now a matter of history. President Eisenhower, as you may already know, was spirited over to Muroc one night during his visit to Palm Springs recently, and it is my conviction that he will ignore the terrific conflict between the various authorities and go directly to the people via radio and television, if the impasse continues much longer. From what I could gather, an official statement to the country is being prepared for delivery about the middle of May. We know that no such announcement was ever made. The Silence Control Group won the day. We also know that 2 more ships, for which we can find no witnesses, either landed sometime after the 3 or were already at the base before the 3 landed. Gerald Light specifically states that 5 ships were present and were undergoing study by the Air Force. His metaphysical experience is evident in that he calls the entities Etherians. Gerald Light capitalized Etherians, calling attention to the fact that these beings might have been viewed as gods by Mr. Light. The alien emblem was known as the trilateral insignia and was displayed on the craft and worn on the alien uniforms. Both of these landings and the second meeting were filmed. These films exist today. The treaty stated that the aliens would not interfere in our affairs and we would not interfere in theirs. We would keep their presence on Earth a secret. They would furnish us with advanced technology and would help us in our technological development. They would not make any treaty with any other Earth nation. They could abduct humans on a limited and periodic basis for the purpose of medical examination and monitoring of our development, with the stipulation that the humans would not be harmed, would be returned to their point of abduction, would have no memory of the event, and that the alien nation would furnish Majesty 12 with a list of all human contacts and abductees on a regularly scheduled basis.
All right. All right. So now, here you have these beings, right, telling this government that they will give them weapons, right? They will give them weapons in exchange for secrecy, that they don't exist, right? It's crazy, bro. Let's do this real quick. Let's just go to this real quick, and let's get into this.
The Complete Book of Enoch, narrated by Alexander Skirby.
Book 1, The Watchers. Chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous who will be living in the days of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And Enoch, a righteous man whose eyes were opened by God, took up his parable and said, I saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angel showed me, and from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one, which is for to come.
So Enoch, um, the scribe of scribes, was shown a lot of things, right? A righteous man's his eyes was opened by the heavenly Father, right? Now, the vision that Enoch is going to receive, he'll going to say that what he's seen is for a remote generation. So God wanted to hide this information. Um, it's crazy too because now that I think about it, the Lord said it Himself that there was going to be. Um, he said, "There's so much that I want to tell you, but you're not ready for this. I got to send the Holy Spirit, and you got to have the Holy Spirit on you. It was too heavy, and at a time, I'm saying that these things were going to manifest. This stuff is going to be made known unto you. The Lord said He was going to pour out His Spirit on all flesh, right? So now we living in a time in which um, the marine people, who are they? What's in the sea? These ships are starting to make themselves known. They're putting it in cartoons, right? But nevertheless, let's tune in here and let's see what we got.
Concerning the elect, I said, and took up my parable concerning them. The Holy Great One will come forth from his dwelling, and the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and will appear in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens. And all shall be smitten with fear, and the watchers shall quake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them unto the ends of the earth. And the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be made low, and shall melt like wax before the flame. And the earth shall be wholly rent in sunder, and all that is upon the earth shall perish, and there shall be a judgment upon all. But with the righteous he will make peace, and will protect the elect, and mercy shall be upon them. And they shall all belong to God, and they shall be prospered, and they shall all be blessed, and he will help them all, and light shall appear unto them, and he will make peace with them. And behold, he cometh with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all, and to destroy all the ungodly, and to convict all flesh of all the works of their ungodliness which they have ungodly committed,
So
and of all the hard things. Righteous he will make peace, and will protect the elect, and mercy shall be upon them. And they shall all belong to God, and they shall be prospered, and they shall all be blessed, and he will help them all, and light shall appear unto them, and he will make peace with them. And behold, he cometh with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all, and to destroy all the ungodly, and to convict all flesh of all the works of their ungodliness which they have ungodly committed, and of all the hard things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him.
so now
Listen to this.
what you have here is a direct quote from the book of Jude, right? Now, what a non-believer is going to tell you is, yeah, it does quote the book of Jude because they can't deny that. They're not going to be able to deny that. But they're going to say, how do you know that that actual book of Enoch is the actual book that Jude was quoting for? And my question to them would be, how do you know that it's not? So the burden of the proof is on you. I believe, but you don't believe. But now you got to show me why I shouldn't believe, right? This is the book of Jude. Chapter 1, verse 6. The angels which kept not their first estate. Whoever these angels are, they didn't keep their first estate, but left their own habitation. Wherever they lived is where their habitation is. So they left their own habitation. He have reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the great day of judgment. Who is Jude? Jude, a servant of Yeshua Hamashiach, the brother of James. Who is James? James is the brother of Hamashiach. To them that are sanctified by God the Father and preserved in Yeshua Hamashiach. Jude grew up um, in a house with his brother James, in a house with the Lord, his mom being Mary, and his father being Joseph. All right, man. This is my witness. This is who I'm putting this guy on a stance. I'm putting him on a stance. I'm saying Jude was around in the first century. He was raised in the upright house. You can go to biblical scholars; they'll tell you that the book of Enoch was very. The first century Jews were very familiar with the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch was not taboo. It was as normal as anything else in the first century, right? Did Jude have access to this book? Absolutely. There's no question, 100%, right? So Jude is saying, and the angels which kept not their first step, but left their own habitations, he have reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until judgment of the great day. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to strange flesh. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh. Why say giving themselves to fornication, comma, and going after strange flesh? Let's look at the definition of fornication. Why emphasize the going after the strange flesh if it wasn't something freaky going on?
Strong's G 2087. Heteros.
You know what?
Heteros.
That's strange. So I'm gonna go after. I actually didn't want that one. The of another, i.e., one not of the same nature, form, kind. I didn't even want to look that up. I hit the wrong one by accident, right? But let's check this out. Let's look up the definition of. I wanted to look into fornication. Did I look at the wrong one? Yeah, I want to look up fornication. Is that possible? Um, they don't have that name here. Oh, here it is. No, they have something else.
Strong's G 1608. Ekparnuo. Ekparnuo.
So I know pornos, going a whoring, giving oneself over to fornication, right? So we know that if it was just men, right? If the men were the angels that was going after women of another nation, you know, is that fornication? Do you teach that? Is that why God flooded the earth? Because the sons of God were going after the heathen women? Huh? Huh? Are you against Moses? Moses' wife was an Ethiopian. Is that she was a Cushite? I'd rather say better, right? Is that a reason for God's indignation? Is that what you're saying? Um. So these angels he have reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto judgment of the great day, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh. What is the going after the strange flesh? What is the going after the strange? Let's see if I can cross. Yeah, here you go. So let's see what we got here. Genesis chapter 19 verse 5, and they called out unto Lot and said unto them, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us that we may know them. These are angels that were sent to Sodom and Gomorrah. And now you got these men. You got these men that want to lay down with these angels. That's the going after the strange flesh. That's the reason why the old world was destroyed and fire came down on Sodom and Gomorrah, or set forth an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. I heard this one guy, this reprobate, he said, it was Sodom and Gomorrah set on fire for eternity. This is give this that was a similitude as to what was going to happen to a man in the physical, showing you the physical man what was going to happen to you in the spirit if you continued likewise in this same stead. Right? Likewise, these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, speak evil of dignities. We're going to get into this. Yet Moses, the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses. This is an assumption of Moses. Lost chapters. The Jude is quoting. Jude is hitting from this hitting manna. Right? Jude is hitting from this hitting manna. Does not bring against them a railing accusation, but said, Lord, rebuke thee. But these speak evil of those things which they know not. But what they know naturally as brute beasts in those things, they corrupt themselves. Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain and ran greedily in the error of Balaam for reward. You got to go into the book of Jasher. You got to go into the book of Jasher to fully understand 11 and purse and then gainsaying scores. These are spots in your feast of charity when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear, clouds without water, carried about winds. This is the doctrines that that they conjured up in their mind. Trees without fruits, withered without fruit. We always talk about the fruits of the spirit. They don't have the Lord. Plucked up by the root. Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars. What are the stars? Who are the fallen stars? The angels, to whom is reserved into the blackness of dark forever. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, is letting you know there's ancient Enoch. It's letting you know that it's not just another Enoch, right? It's letting you know that it's the ancient Enoch, the seventh from Adam, the one that was carried away. The author of the book of Enoch, the first scribe, the scribe of scribes, seventh from Adam, prophesied these things. So what was Enoch, a prophet? Was his prophecies written down? Of course they was. Did Jude have it? Of course he did. Do men believe? Of course they don't. What the Lord said, when I come back, will I find faith? Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied these things, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with tens of thousands of his saints to execute judgments upon all, and to convince all the ungodly among them, and all their ungodly deeds which they've ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which the ungodly sinners have spoken against. You guys speak greasy on Enoch. These are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lust in their own mouth, speak great swelling words, having men's persons of admiration because of their advantage. Whatever they say is what they believe, right? Whatever they say is what they believe. So now here you have the book of Jude. Our brother Jude quoting from the book of Enoch word from word, and actually mentioning him, and actually mentioning the actions in which the angels left their first estate. And he's going to go into this perfectly. It's time for this information to come out. This is the last generation that's going to come upon this information and is going to understand exactly what is happening on this planet Earth to a T. Let's go.
And transgress not against their appointed order. Behold ye the earth, and give heed to the things which take place upon it from first to last, how steadfast they are, how none of the things upon earth change, but all the works of God appear to you. Behold the summer and the winter, how the whole earth is filled with water, and clouds and dew and rain lie upon it. Observe and see how in the winter all the trees seem as though they had withered and shed all their leaves, except 14 trees, which do not lose their foliage, but retain the old foliage from 2 to 3 years, till the new comes. And again, observe ye the days of summer, how the sun is above the earth over against it. And you seek shade and shelter by reason of the heat of the sun. And the earth also burns with growing heat, and so you cannot tread on the earth or on a rock by reason of its heat. Observe ye how the trees cover themselves with green leaves and bear fruit. Wherefore give ye heed, and know with regard to all his works, and recognize how he that liveth forever hath made them so. And all his works go on thus from year to year forever, and all the tasks which they accomplish for him, and their tasks change not, but according as God hath ordained so is it done. And behold, how the sea and the rivers in like manner accomplish and change not their tasks from his commandments. But ye have not been steadfast, nor done the commandments of the Lord, but ye have turned away and spoken proud and hard words with your impure mouths against his greatness. O ye hard-hearted, ye shall find no peace. Therefore shall ye execrate your days, and the years of your life shall perish, and the years of your destruction shall be multiplied in eternal abomination, and ye shall find no mercy. In those days ye shall make your names an eternal abomination unto all the righteous, and by you shall all who curse curse. All the sinners and godless shall imprecate by you, and for you, the godless, there shall be a curse. And all the righteous shall rejoice, and there shall be forgiveness of sins, and every mercy and peace and forbearance. There shall be salvation unto them, a goodly light. And for all of you sinners there shall be no salvation, but on you all shall abide the curse of the beast. But for the elect there shall be light and joy and peace, and they shall inherit the earth. And then there shall be bestowed upon the elect wisdom, and they shall all live and never again sin, either through ungodliness or through pride. But they who are wise shall be humble, and they shall not again transgress, nor shall they sin all the days of their life, nor shall they die of anger or wrath, but they shall complete the number of the days of their life. And their lives shall be increased in peace, and the years of their joy shall be multiplied in eternal gladness and peace all the days of their life.
Unlock the world's largest, most liquid financial market.
Chapter 3.
So
Fallen
here's
Angels.
chapter 3 is going to get into these fallen angels, which is mentioned all throughout the scriptures. Primarily, I'm thinking of Matthew 25, where the Lord says he's going to cast the devil and his angels into the lake of fire. Revelations 12 chapter talks about the fallen angels. Um, Genesis 6 is supposed to lead you to Jude, where the sons of God lead with the daughters of men and created giants. Genesis 6 is supposed to lead you to Jude. Jude is supposed to lead you to Peter's. Peter's is supposed to lead you to the book of Enoch, and the book of Enoch is supposed to lead you to another understanding. The book of Enoch is for the elect. It mentions plenty of time that this is just for the elect. It's not for you carnal guys that don't even understand the scripture, don't even bother. Just, you know what I'm saying? This is only for the elect, bro.
And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Semjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him, and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then sware they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200, who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders: Samlazaz, their leader,
Hold on, hold it there.
Arachleba,
Don't slow
Ramil,
down, slow down,
Kokablil,
slow down, slow down. So you got to understand too this Mount Hermon. Let's go into this really quick. Yeah, we're probably gonna go. We're probably gonna touch over this again. This is just something I'm gonna do really quick. Mount Hermon. Here you have the UN. Mount Hermon. Why is Mount Hermon important? Military forces occupying Mount Hermon and the heights of the mount. This is military port. This is Mount Hermon and the water sources. Yeah, critical. Yeah, sure. And make mention of, here's Mount Hermon. I want to show you, brother, something too as well. I want to show you something. You just read there was 200 angels who set over them captains of 10. So here you have the 22 captains of the angels, and what you see here is the fallen stars. What are the fallen stars? The fallen angels. You see them falling from heaven, scraping the waters and congregating on Mount Hermon, Paramount Pictures. You count these stars: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. No coincidence that it is 22. The stars are falling from heaven and congregating on Mount Hermon. You got to understand that Hollywood is fully engulfed in occultism. You know, all these fallen angels, they run Hollywood. It's not. This has nothing to do with human beings. Our beef isn't with human beings. Our beef is with principalities that sit in high places. These are spiritual beings that are jumping on guys. What you dealing with, the evil spirits? That's the spirits of the Nephilim that got put to death during the time of the flood. But because they were essentially demagogues, when their bodies got destroyed, their spirits could not go back into heaven. And it's going to tell you that these spirits are the evil spirits that hop on men. All right. And just like that movie Chucky, they needed a body to possess in order for them to live out their lives and to do their will. Okay. And these are the spirits that the Lord was casting out of people. He was casting out, and they know that this judgment is coming as well at the end of it. Even with the guy in, he said, "What hast thou to do with me, O Yeshua, Son of God? Art thou now come to torment us before our time?" Because they understand that there is a time period in which they're going to be cast into the lake of fire. Okay, just wanted to bring that information out real quick. Mount Hermon. Let's do something real quick, because there's a couple of videos here. Let me see what you got here.
Fallen angels, UN bases, ancient temples, and Jesus' transfiguration. Mount Hermon has been a focal point throughout all of human history. In this video, we'll look at how all of those things connect together. Mount Hermon is a cluster of mountains.
Dealing with Jacob's ladder, him saying he's seen angels, ascending and descending. Let's just
with 3 distinct summits, each of which are about the same height. Most of Mount Hermon lies within the Israeli-controlled area that constitutes the Hermon Nature Reserve. The Bible and extra-biblical historical texts mention Mount Hermon in many different places. In Psalm 133, the dew of Mount Hermon is compared to the dew of Mount Zion. In Deuteronomy 3 and 4, it describes the land that was taken from the 2 kings of the Amorites, which included Mount Hermon. According to the book of Enoch, Mount Hermon is the location where fallen angels landed upon the earth, and this is the same location where that group of angels joined together in an oath to sin against themselves and God, and to take wives for themselves just like humans were. The Book of Enoch, while part of the Ethiopian Bible, isn't considered part of the current canon Bible we have today. But just like other historical texts that we trust about all throughout human history, we can know that there is still truth within texts outside of the Bible. And when we understand that the Bible actually quotes the Book of Enoch multiple times, and when we compare what's in the Book of Enoch with what we know in the Bible and how those stories match up very well, we can see, and in my opinion, trust that there's some very historically accurate information in the Book of Enoch. A connection between the Book of Enoch and the Bible is in the comparison between Enoch chapter 15 verse 3, "Why have you left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and become unclean with the daughters of men, and taken wives for yourselves, and done as the sons of the earth, and begotten giant sons?" Of course, we know this story of the fallen angels creating giants in Genesis 6:4, but in Joshua 12 verse 4 through 5, we're told about King Og, who was a giant, and how he is connected to Mount Hermon. It says the other king was Og, king of Bashan, and his territory, who was of the remnant of the giants who dwelt at Ashtaroth and Edrei, and reigned over Mount Hermon. So here we have the Bible as well as the book of Enoch telling us that the region of Mount Hermon was occupied by giants. Enoch 15:8-9, and now the giants who were born from the body and flesh will be called evil spirits on the earth, and on the earth will be their dwelling. And evil spirits came out from their flesh, because from above they were created, from the holy watchers was their origin and first foundation. Evil spirits they will be on the earth, and spirits of the evil ones they will be called. There's actually a connection to be made between that and the transfiguration of Jesus that I'll explain later, but first we have to understand the importance of Mount Hermon and Jesus' transfiguration. It seems as if Jesus went right into enemy territory when he went to Mount Hermon and declared his authority. This seems to be the location where Jesus had his transfiguration, and actually even more importantly, this is the location where Jesus revealed to his disciples that he is the Messiah. Caesarea Philippi was a city that was located near the base of Mount Hermon. Matthew 16, verse 13-17 describes this more. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." Again, this happened in Caesarea Philippi, a town right at the base of Mount Hermon. This is in Matthew 16, and then in Matthew 17 we have the Transfiguration. Now after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John his brother, led them up on a high mountain by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. High mountain. He goes to the base of the mountain, reveals to his disciples he's the Messiah, goes up and has the supernatural transfiguration, and then comes down and delivers a human being from one of these evil spirits of the dead giants from the fallen angels who came down upon Mount Hermon. It's like Jesus came face to face in a supernatural story of good versus evil that truly couldn't even be thought of in the complexity and amazement of.
It's a shame on Jake, bro. Shame on Jake, because it's like, man, you don't understand this, bro. You don't see this, but you call out, the Gentiles. The brother Sia had made mention of, what I'm saying, the Gentiles being on fire more than you Jakes, or believing more. And look, bro, what do you want the Lord to do with you guys who don't believe, man?
That story. Worth referencing is that according to the Encyclopedia of Britannica, Hermon means forbidden place, and Jerome, a 4th century translator of the Latin Vulgate Bible, interpreted Hermon as anathema. An anathema means someone or something that is intensely disliked or loathed, one that is cursed by ecclesiastical authority. Another definition is a ban or curse solemnly pronounced by ecclesiastical authority and accompanied by excommunication. Almost an exact description of what happened according to Enoch of the fallen angels who were excommunicated at Mount Hermon. Now, strangely enough, if this mountain didn't have enough things going on around it throughout history, it continues to this very day, with the UN base at the very top of this mountain. It's called and referenced by people as the Hermon Hotel, and it's the highest permanently manned UN position in the world. According to the official story, in 1973, when war broke out between Syria and Israel on and around Mount Hermon, Israel was using Mount Hermon as a radar outpost, and some of Israel's most sensitive and secret equipment was located there. It's currently a buffer zone, and the United Nations is in control of this area. This leads some people to wonder, is the UN there hiding something? With the history of that location, is it a possibility that there's still an opening or a connection to the supernatural world, a place where they're trying to break through and connect through? I mean, this isn't outside of the realm of possibility. All throughout history, even governments have tried to use supernatural forces to gain an advantage in war and power. Some archaeological connections to Mount Hermon are the Nimrod Castle, which is built on the southern slopes of Mount Hermon. The original building was said to be built around 30 AD, but then rebuilt in 1228 to be used as a preemptive attack on Damascus. With the name Nimrod, of course, we can look at his history and see that he was the son of Cush, the grandson of Ham, the great-grandson of Noah, and he was known for building the Tower of Babel trying to reach heaven, another type of supernatural event. Also scattered all around Mount Hermon are temple sites, which were Baal shrines, ones which are either attributed to the Romans or the Romans built on top of them like they did in all the ancient sites. There's a foundation there, so the Romans just built on top of them when they came upon them. The wicked people living in the land were building these temples to the idols, the fallen angels, and the giants. Another very strange fact about Mount Hermon is in the year 1666, Louis XIV of France authorized the building of an observatory in Paris to measure longitude. This was the beginning of the Paris Zero Meridian, and according to this system, the original system of measuring meridians, it's different than the one now, but according to this one, 33 degrees east of the Paris Zero Meridian and 33 degrees north of the equator lies Mount Hermon. And we know the number 33 nowadays is used in many different ways to mock truly Jesus, because that's the time when it's believed that he died on the cross, was around the age of 33. Not sure what to make exactly of all those numbers, but they are strange at the very least. Let me know in the comments your opinions on the significance of Mount Hermon. By far the coolest aspect of it, in my opinion, is that right by it in Caesarea Philippi, Jesus revealed to his disciples that yes, I am the Messiah. I pray you all are well. Thanks for watching, and God bless.